It is 3 o'clock and we have a busy agenda. Um, Senator Rhett, would you do the invocation for us?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Bow our heads. Oh, Lord, we thank you for this day, another day's journey, and we're glad about it because we have the opportunity to do the people's work. Give us your guidance and wisdom. Hold our hands. Walk with us as we move forward and try and make Georgia a better place to live for all Georgians. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen and amen.
Amen. All right. The first bill we're going to call today was one that was left over from before with Representative Mitchell Scoggins. That's going to be, you have to go back, I think they're in numerical order, and pull out 290. So, and you've got a copy of this.
Yes, sir.
And give me your LC number just to be sure we're the same.
LC number 43281S.
All right.
And, I can go back through and explain the bill if you need me to, or
I think just that last section where we were looking at the wordage.
section 2, the change made on line 106, or the current term of the office of tax collector. I think that was what was added here.
All right. So it wouldn't end that year, it would be their term of office.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So instead of it being the, I think before it could be interpreted to say it would be that year, contract year, this would be their term of office. So if they've got a contract in place for a 4-year term, it would stay in place for the 4-year term. And anybody that wasn't here at the previous meeting, this is dealing with the tax commissioners that has language that says that the fees they get will be no more than 50% of their base salary, and then it will be a 3-way negotiation with the county commission, the tax commissioner, and the entities that are wanting them to collect the taxes. Any other questions by anybody? If there's no questions, Senator Hickman's moved that we do pass this substitute to House Bill 290. Is there a second? Second by Senator Albers. All in favor, raise your hand. All right. Don't see any opposed. Passes unanimously. I'm carrying that. All right. We're going to move. Representative Crow's 101 got split up a little bit, so if you'll pull out your package on 504, and I'll kind of explain what's going on there. I think 504 may be in between somewhere. You said you put it behind 170, or?
Behind 170 in front of 101.
Okay. Okay, so that's 170. 504 is just behind the audit note on 170. And just behind that then is the audit on the original bill from Chairman Hatchett over there. This audit is not going to be good for this bill, but I want to explain here. Chairman Hatchett had a change he wanted to make to Freeport, and he didn't feel like it would be a very significant amount of money. And we said, well, we need the fiscal note on it, check and see. We got the fiscal note back, and it's about $300 million. And Chairman Hatchett said, never mind, don't hear my bill. So because of that, what we have done, trying to get some stuff through, is we put on there the hospital tax credit and the $5 million for the public school foundation tax credit. And I'll further say that the original hospital bill had it going from 75 to 80 million. We're trying to save those discussions for the off session, so this will stay at 75 million. There was some language they needed that would clarify which hospitals are eligible and would match the federal definition. So that has been left in. The there was some information there about raising the corporate from 10 to 25, and we're going to save that for the off session as well. And then you'll see in there, in keeping with the administration's request on parity on sunsets, that we repeal it on December 31st, 2026. Let me make sure, because we have changed this, that both sections are subject to that, aren't they? Or, okay. So it's really not changing much on the hospital part, or the other one's not changing at all. The only change on the hospital part is some language that would make it match the federal language that we need, and the two would both sunset at 2026, December 31st, 2026. Any questions from the committee? Senator Albers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The rural hospital tax credit, I know, has been quite successful. My question is, now that the great work has been done by Commissioner Noggle in order to have a full payment on especially those Medicaid costs, I'm wondering what the long-term need for this is anymore once we get to that level. And I don't know if anybody here today could speak to that, but it seems like where they suffered in years past, now they may not be suffering anymore, and do we need to have this in addition to?
Okay, I don't know if anybody from the Hospital Association wants to speak to that or not. I know my, let's see, we just now got the sign-up sheet over here. Let me see what we've got. Yeah, go ahead, Senator Hickman. while I'm
To
looking at
address
this.
Mr. Senator Albert, now, I've actually had a hospital or two in my area that says that the Medicaid thing that you're referring to is not going to be very good for them. It's not going to take them. You know, like we got hospitals in our area that's getting $1.5 million, $2 million worth of tax credits, and I don't know if that's across the board. It's not, or what, but I have had that conversation with them.
Okay, thank you.
I noticed there's a number of people who have signed up on 101. If you're interested in either one of these sections in here, you know, you can speak on this, but this is dealing with the rural hospital tax credit and the $5 million public school tax credit that Brooks Coleman had started. I think, from my knowledge of hospitals, I think you've got a valid point in that they're getting $1.7 billion more money with this direct pay, which we've worked on. The total uncompensated with indigent care and lower rates and everything is probably around $6 billion. So, from my perspective, you know, you're partially right on that. My only thinking was we were kind of having a big study that we would do a short sunset, not raise it, and look at it from that standpoint. But it's certainly the will of the committee. Senator Hodges, yeah, your number. What number are you? Okay, there you are.
11. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to mirror what Senator Hickman was saying. I'm told by the only hospital in my district that the difference in this program is really minimal for them, and their net revenues of about $500 million. So, with about an 80 to 90 million uncompensated care package.
That's helpful. I think maybe we could have Chairman Watson sometime over the summer help us to figure out what the
I think
delta's
that would
going to
be
be.
a good idea.
Thank you.
All right. Does everybody understand the bill and what we've got in here, and those in the audience too? It's only the public school $5 million portion, setting it to go on through 2026, and the hospital basically staying the same with a little bit of needed language and going to 2026. If there are not any other questions, we can have a motion.
So are we raising the private school credit?
No, it's staying the same. That, well, this is the public school, nothing to do with the SSOs. Yeah, that's later on. And that's one of the reasons I want to do this early, so that when we get to 101 and everything's not there, we'll have said we've already dealt with 2 of them. Okay? All right, we'll entertain a motion. Got a motion, is that a motion? Well, go ahead and state your motion.
Motion, do pass.
All right. Is there a second? Second from Senator Estevez. Any discussion? I guess on this one, all in favor, raise your hands. All right, looks like unanimous. Okay. So, Chairman Hatchett over there, his 504 passed, but just not exactly in the form it was. However, I had a discussion with him about what I was putting in here, and he was good with it. So, you're a little bit late, Miss Adams, I think, but your bill passed anyway, so even without you here. And well, let's see. I guess that would be Representative Crowe, I think, is over all these things. Maybe he wants to pick the Senate sponsor on this. Is he here? Okay, I can do it. That's fine. I know we've got different committees going on out there. All right, so let me put that out of the way. Now we'll go to House Bill 86. Representative Rhodes, are you here? It should be in the very front of your package.
This is my amendment to add my.
Okay, you gotta
Just
hand them out, yeah.
That's your copy. Or did I give you a copy? I gave you.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. LC number 432792S, committee substitute. This is really is a simple bill. 2 of our great establishments here in the state
Wait a
of
minute,
Georgia.
let's hang on just a minute and make sure I've got the right LC number.
Okay.
2820S, is that what you said?
LC 432792S.
Okay. We may not have given you,
43
we'll get you a copy of it. I don't think you're gonna see too much different.
432792S.
Okay, we need to first get him a copy of
You
the
need
bill
a
together.
copy of this one?
So we'll let you look at that for a second. I'm trying to see what's different. We do need to have a sunset in the form of an amendment that would make it equal. I'll ask Ledge Council, do you know what's different on this? Okay. I think it was a technical change from Ledge Council where it struck state.
That's correct. It just
That's-
struck the
that's
word
really
state.
the only difference
That's correct.
there. So this one,
It's on line 19 in my version, the LC I just gave you, it just struck the word state. And then it was,
I'm trying to see. Yeah,
yeah, I'm trying to figure this out too. This is the current one that's on,
well,
online.
we'll go through it. It's probably the easiest way and go through it. If it's underlined, it's a change. Starting at the beginning, you've got to change on line 13 where you're taking out subparagraphs B and C. And you're just changing that provided in this paragraph,
That's correct.
okay? So then, line 22 should have been struck in your original bill as well, I would think, 22 through 27,
That's right.
okay? Then there's a little bit of numbering done in there where we go from, you know, since C's gone, we added D, and E changes, F changes to E, just technical stuff.
That's the same, that's right.
Okay, then we go to line 50, and again, provided in this paragraph.
That's right, that's the same.
And then we go to, B and C are different. We go to June 30th, 2027, which we're gonna need to change to be consistent to December 31st, 2026, or until the aggregate sales. Other than that, it would be the same. Okay, and go ahead, Senator Alvarez. He wants us to stop right there.
Thank you. You just turned me off.
Oh,
That's all right. Okay, I just see one thing that looks concerning now that I'm looking at this version. If we go to line 16, where it talks about the aggregate state sales tax and use to refund or pursuant to this paragraph exceeds 4.5 million. However, if you look 2 lines down, this applies to both state and local because it's just sales tax. So are we saying that there's a cap in the state portion of 4.5, but the locals, which would be the majority of that sales tax, would be unlimited?
Is state and local, that's why in hence on 19, they strike the word state. So it takes that completely out of play. It means state and local.
Yeah, no, but if you look up ahead of it, right? So start on line 15. It says this is going to apply between July 1st, 2023 until June 30, 2027, or into the aggregate state sales tax and use refunded. So right now it's inconsistent. So if it needs to be a total of 4.5 million, because in the city of Atlanta you'd have a 4% sales tax, you'd have a 4.92% local tax, then that would be incongruent. You'd have to strike state on line 16 as well.
Mr. Chairman,
All right.
I'm just going by what Ledge Council said. I'm no attorney.
all right. So was the intent to have a total of 4.5 million, or have a total of
Needs to be
4.5 billion?
capped at 4.5 million for the aquarium and 800,000 for the zoo. Yes,
So,
sir.
but is that state and local money, 4.5 million?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll need to make sure we've got the right language on this, which I guess, I think I agree with Senator Albers that we would strike through state again on line 16.
So we're taking state and local sales tax, or
Yeah, the exemption is for both. However, the way that the amount not to exceed says just state, I was just conferring with legislative council. It's inconsistent right now.
So if the author's agreeable, I think if we take out line 16 and say 4.5 million state and local,
That's
then,
correct. Yes, sir.
then that would correct that error. And then, again, we've got to change the sunset.
what city and county is this in?
This would both be Atlanta, Fulton County.
So have they agreed to lose their local sales tax?
Not my bill.
You'd have to ask the author of the bill.
Pretty sure the zoo and the aquarium.
The zoo and the
weren't-
aquarium presented this, and that's what they wanted.
Do we have anybody here?
We
to
do.
speak
We've
from the
got-
city?
I don't see them. I don't know about from the city now. No, ma'am.
So for whatever it might be worth, Mr. Chairman, when I passed this in 2017, the good news is you all know how much I like to measure everything. This actually came back as an 11-to-1 return on investment positive
That's correct.
on the sales tax exemption versus what they got back in ticketing and all the other things of that nature. So it did have a very, very good ROI. I will say that much.
Okay, Senator Hickman, you're next.
Just clarification, it says certain aquariums and zoological institution. Is there more than one aquarium involved, or is it?
No, sir. It's just
No.
the Atlanta aquarium.
Just Atlanta, okay. Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
sir. And
But it's
and
open
one-
to all the aquariums in Atlanta to apply, so
All the aquariums in Atlanta.
make sure we're not being gratuitous.
Yeah, there you go. And also zoos, it'd be the only one would be the zoo in Atlanta.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
even though
There-
there's a plural on this, there's just one.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, let me do Senator Estevez next, and I'll get to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am aware that this bill would help the zoo, help the aquarium with some of the stuff that they're doing, and the city of Atlanta does not have objection to the bill.
All right. All right, Senator Beach.
I'm number 3.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the proper time, I would like to offer an amendment to House Bill 86.
Okay, well, we'll need a motion on the original bill before we get to
Okay.
that, obviously, but, if there's no other questions, I guess we're open. You got another,
No, I was just gonna at the appropriate time.
well, go ahead.
If you can hand these, I'm passing these around. This is the amendment.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
All right, we've got a motion to
Do
approve.
pass.
Is there a second? Second by Senator Albers. Okay, now Senator Beach is passing around an amendment he would like to offer.
First off, I love his bill. I love what the aquarium's done. This has nothing to do with his bill. As you recall, Mr. Chairman, we heard testimony on SB 153, and that was a 2% ticket sales fee on arenas of 5,000 or more. And that revenue would go to public safety to buy fire equipment and capital outlay equipment. And we were told by legislative counsel that this would have to originate in the House because it was a revenue bill. And we talked about attaching it to another bill, and this bill looks like the bill we could attach this to. Again, it would be for capital outlay for fire trucks and such, and it's a voluntary tax. I mean, it's voluntary, just like the hotel motel tax. The municipalities or the county commissions don't have to do this, but it's a tool in their toolbox to make sure that they are able to buy the proper equipment to go to these arenas if there's a fire or a disaster, and have the proper equipment to do the public safety needs that they need to do to address the incident. So we had a couple days of testimony on this, Mr. Chairman, if you remember. We had the fire chief from Atlanta that came and spoke to the need that a fire truck 10 years ago cost $600,000. Now it's almost $1.1 million to buy some of these fire trucks, and they're getting more and more expensive. And this is good for arenas of 5,000 or more is where you could apply this 2% sales tax. And with
So-
that, I'll answer any questions.
So-
But
so-
basically what this is this is Senate Bill 153 that would be inserted into his bill. I think after line 88 on the bill I have, I don't know if that's the same LC number, but my amendment would be to amend to add this language to House Bill 86 LC 432792S, beginning at the end of his bill at line 88. That's my amendment.
So I'm looking for the 5,000 in here, but,
It's on page,
5,000 on line 23.
okay, I see it now, okay.
Yeah.
So you're wanting to have a 2% sales tax increase on all the stadiums in Georgia that have
If the
5,000 or more people, and, for how long did you want to do this? And then, I'm sure it specifies in here where the money's going to. You're saying fire trucks.
It's going to capital outlay. I think that's on, let me see, I can. Hold on.
It's line 76, I think. Capital outlay projects, maintenance and operations of security.
Right, 76, capital outlay projects for the construction of public safety facilities, including acquiring, improving, equipping of the retirement of debt issued to respect the capital outlay project. And again, this is voluntary by the county or cities if they want to enact this, but if they do, this revenue would go to public safety, capital projects.
All right, I don't know if, I think he's checking with ledge council, making sure it was all, okay. Any questions on this that would have a 2% sales tax increase on all stadiums in Georgia, 5,000 or more. That'd be, Senator Beach would be the one to ask the questions to. Okay, Senator Hickman wants to make a motion.
To accept Senator Beach's amendment.
All right, and you don't have a sunset on it either, do you?
No, I do not.
Okay. Well,
We don't sunset hotel motel tax.
we've got a motion, a second on the table. Any discussions, any amendments anyone needs to offer, that would be at this time. All right, I see nothing, so I don't see any other questions, so this will be a up and down vote, I guess. All those in favor of Senator Beach's amendment, raise your hand. All right, opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
8-3, I believe I saw. 4 no votes, 8-4. Okay. So now we've accepted the amendment onto the original bill. So now we're ready to vote on the bill as a whole. All those in favor of the bill as, oh, okay, sure. That's right. We've got to amend it some more. Yeah, December 31st, 26.
Mr. Chairman, how are we voting on the bill we don't have in front of us?
Well, you've got the bill, you don't have the bill in front of you?
I mean, I have not the version that you're working off of.
You have 43, 28, 20S?
I thought you said it was a different,
No, what we're saying is that he offered an amendment.
he has a different one, but that's not the one we're.
He's got an amendment.
I passed out an amendment right here.
Yeah, but she's talking about the LC number.
Give the current LC you're working off of right now, Representative Rhodes.
Hold
The
on.
one, the latest version.
The amendment. Lord,
I can clarify this real quick.
the one I
Okay.
presented that we changed was 432792S. But that's, but
So
that
when you
wasn't,
got here, we said we had 432820S. Somebody should have came and given you a
right,
copy.
432820S.
Right. So that's the copy you have now.
Okay.
That's the latest version with some technical changes. And now the amendment is on there, and we've got, to change the sunset and take that state and strike it out. So I think you're ready to offer amendments on that, aren't you?
First, Mr. Chairman, I'd like on line 16 to change 2027 to 2026, and then do the same thing on line 59 to strike 2027 and make it 2026 as a First Amendment.
Okay.
Let's try to make it consistent.
So we can vote on that, or we can,
We're still going back and forth on the state sales tax part, so if you give us a minute while we vote on that one.
okay. So we've got an amendment to change the sunset to December 31st, 2026. And we've got a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Okay.
I had a question for the sponsor of the bill. I didn't know whether 2027 was of any significance to the aquarium or to the zoo.
It's just like we've done the previous few times they did this bill. It was just a 4-year period, and I guess they were just running it on our fiscal calendar.
Okay.
And since we're giving parity to the bills, that's why we're using the December
Right.
31st, 2026 date.
Mr. Chairman, I think if we just strike state on line 16, that actually does it. So it's congruent with the rest of it. So it just says aggregate sales taxes.
Okay.
Yes.
I can't remember. I don't think we voted on the other amendment on the sunset, did we?
There's a second. We have not voted.
So first of all, let's vote on the sunset amendment, December 31st, 2026. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. Looks unanimous, I think. So now you can offer another amendment.
On line 16, strike the word state between aggregate and sales.
Okay, need a second to that. All right, second from Senator Eccles. Any discussion? All in favor of that, raise your hand. Looks unanimous again. Okay. So now we're back to the original bill with Senator Beach's amendment, with the sunset amendment and striking state amendment now in the bill. All those in favor of the bill as a whole, raise your hand. Okay, opposed? All right, we've got 2 opposed. Motion carries. Give me just a second to catch up with my paperwork here.
Done. And Chairman Albert, you're carrying, correct? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Albert's is right now. All right, we're gonna move down. Is Representative Crowe here? Okay. Well, I guess we can try to do this without him. House Bill 101, Representative Crowe. A couple of sections have been taken out of that, so right now we have just got the SSO in there, or if the committee thinks we need to wait on the House member, I'm good either way on that.
Mr. Chairman, he had a couple of Senate bills to present, and so he may still be on the floor presenting those bills as well.
Okay.
So he's kind of, would the chair like to step forward and go with, if you want me to sit there, I will.
Since you're tired of standing.
I've had the pleasure of presenting the chair.
All right. Well, we can, let's see, we've got a couple of more besides this. So, we can go on to your bill if you want to, Mr. Chairman, but I don't think I've got a fiscal note yet on it, so we may have to wait on a vote on it. Do you want to go through it, or?
I'd be happy to,
So this will be House Bill 454, if my memory's right. Let me look and see. Yes, House Bill 454 from Chairman Blackman, if y'all want to move to that.
I guess since we're waiting on the fiscal note, Mr. Chairman, I'll try to hit the highlights and be happy to jump into the weeds if anybody has any questions. But there are 3 parts. I think Section 1, it would allow our manufacturers to take certain expenditures in year 1 as they have been instead of over a 5-year period, which was a change from the feds in this year's IRC update. Sections 2 through 5 are several technical changes and also some code that would try to help offset some of those changes that were made in 1437 from last year, including a credit for itemizers, but it also is designed to kind of saddle up with what the feds do and closely align with how the feds process income tax according to itemizers and standard deductors. And then in the last section, it contains a piece which on the force majeure definition that would include pandemic as a part of the natural disaster that would qualify them for an extension on receiving credits.
So the issue with Section 6 is that pandemics weren't included. I think there's an issue of somebody may not, that may have some legitimate reasons, but there's also the question of how to do it and not go back retrospective and be gratuitous in it. So that's still kind of being looked at a little bit, I think.
Yes, sir.
From, to my understanding. So we'll save that for the next time. Did you go, let me just go through it section by section. A lot of people, you know, haven't been familiar with this as you are, so I want to give them a little time to see this. So the accelerated depreciation, is that that's in this one, right?
It is.
I
It's in
got it.
section 1, yes, sir,
Yeah,
Mr.
so
Chairman.
that is, I guess, what you would call decoupling from the federal code, which would let us treat it as we had been treating it. And it's the only thing that when Senator Hickman did the IRS update, was not included in that bill that was being looked at when we update the code. So that's one section of this is changing our depreciation to where it had been. It's, I guess in my mind, if you look at that, it changes the years you can take it in. So you could have a dip in revenue and then an increase later on, because where they depreciate it out over 5 years or are able to depreciate it in 1 year, it's kind of still the same amount of money we're getting. Does that make sense to everybody?
It's a little dip in year 1, and I think it kind of bounces out and actually pushes back up over time, yes, sir.
Mhm. And then the next part of the bill deals with trying to eliminate the marriage penalty, where we would go to 12 and 24 on standard deductions. And why don't you talk personal exemptions and standard deductions for the committees?
Well, there's some wordsmith.
Where we were and where we are.
Yes, sir. With the personal exemption, you actually impact not only itemizers, you know, obviously not only non-itemizers, but itemizers. And so when we did a look back and adjusted that back over to the standard deduction, there was some increase in revenue over time, having our accountants and groups, different groups, look at that. And so we adjusted from the standard deduction all the way up, instead of phasing it in over time on page 7. Those are struck and you jump straight to the 24, so you're allowing families to go ahead and realize that those extra dollars earlier, sooner rather than later, if you will. That's sections 3 and 4.
And then it's a 3-year look back on the triggers instead of a 5-year look back too. I don't think you've talked about that, have you?
There was some question, yes, sir, as to whether or not with the years, the way they were structured, as if that would skip a 0.1%. And so I know that was a Senate provision. I would certainly yield to y'all's judgment, but yes, sir, it adjusted from 5 to 3.
And one of the reasons, you know, I'm cautious and like to see all the numbers is we had a previous, and this really isn't a tax cut and rate, but we had a previous tax cut and rate, and I was trying to make sure that nobody got a tax increase in the bill. We thought we had everybody covered, and then the last go around we looked at all the numbers, and there was a small group, because of a little exemption that went away, of blind and disabled, that got a tax increase. And so we had to go back and fix that. Otherwise, the headlines would have been, we raised taxes on the blind and disabled, which wasn't the intent. But we're still trying to make sure we have all the numbers in place to go with this, so that we can show everybody exactly how it impacts. It's really not a change again in tax rate, but it is accelerating the plan on going to 12 and 24,000 on standard deductions, individual and couple, because that would then eliminate, well, I think I went blank here, then that would eliminate what's called the marriage penalty, where people married actually pay more in taxes.
And it couples with the feds and the way they're handle their standard deductions. So,
Mm-hmm.
And in lieu of a personal exemption, itemizers would either get to choose between the standard or their itemization, which they drag down from the federal level. Then, of course, they get the $3,000 on the dependent side, and then the credit would offset what they've been getting in the personal exemption as of right now.
That's right. And you may have been saying this, but they could now choose whether they wanted to go standard or itemize. Senator Hickman, I never called on you. You had your light on forever. Go
No,
ahead.
sir, I think you answered most of the questions, but I think I go back and applaud y'all because this happened, a lot of this happened at the end of last session when we had a lot of pressure on us to do away with the whole state income tax in Georgia. And y'all came back with this compromise, which I'm very, very much pleased with. So and you cleared up a lot of my questions by your answers. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, we can't vote on it today, so if there's not any other questions, we'll have you back on Wednesday. And I hear there's a fiscal note that maybe is waiting on one signature, but I hadn't seen it yet. So hopefully we'll maybe have it today. I don't know.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee.
All right. No, they've been staying there.
Maybe from last time, they've been there a while, Mr. Chairman?
Grinders keepers, baby. A lot of witnesses here if they are. They got you on camera too, so watch out.
All right, we're gonna go on to 101 now, if the representative is here. He hadn't, Mr. Chair, your rep hadn't come in, I don't guess yet, has he?
I hadn't seen,
All right, we'll do 170 then. I think those are the two we have left for the day.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Committee. Let's make sure we're all on the, I think I got this from the back, LC 432795S. Is that what you guys have?
Let me pull that out. 170. Okay, yeah, so most of this deal is, I believe we're still just two subjects on this, aren't we? The digital
Yes, sir.
downloads and the length of distance somebody could sell their goods.
That is correct. So it's basically two items that deal with digitally collected sales tax. So I'm going to go over the digital download piece first. I think this is something most people have heard, and then we'll touch base on the alcohol piece after that. So the digital download piece is basically trying to put parity between mom and pop and retailers in your community and retailers that sell online. So this would apply to books. There's a big list over here, but it basically would apply to books, albums, artwork, newspapers, magazines, video games that you buy for permanent use. So it's not a streaming service. It's not something that you're renting. It's literally, instead of going to GameStop and buying Call of Duty, you're buying it online. And so it's a parity in taxation, I think, that's been long overdue. And it's just updating our tax code. There's language in here that exempts and makes sure it's clear that it's not streaming. It's also not business to business stuff that's currently not taxable, is my understanding. There has been some language, Chairman has changed some language around, but I feel pretty confident. The purpose of the language change was to make sure that we were capturing the taxes that we are wanting to tax on permanent use items and not streaming type materials. Is that correct, Chairman?
Right. It's the way there's going to be a fiscal note here. My personal opinion is it's higher than what we're going to capture, but also there was a couple of legal opinions that we weren't really going to tax anything with some of the other wording.
Yep, and so then he added the language. Bear with me if I can find the sheet it's on. I apologize. Sorry. Oh, there we go. So that section 2.3 basically is what it basically discusses, that stuff that was changed. But yeah, and I agree with you. I don't think the fiscal note will be quite as high as that as well, but it is just, to me, it's important to make sure that we have a parity in our taxation system. so that we are taxing brick and mortars the same as we're doing online. And then if that's
And
clear
this
with
is,
everybody.
this is basically what you're trying to get to, is if they are an end user of the
That's correct.
product and possess it, that's the only thing.
That's right. So it's
being
not a book.
taxed.
It's not an app that you might have to get a bunch of books in a month. It's literally you go to Barnes and Noble, you buy the book, or you buy the book permanently on your phone. You're taxed at the same rate, and so that's the point of the tax.
All right, Senator Albers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This actually, I believe, Representative Carpenter, is similar to what we did with Marketplace Facilitator, to make sure that we didn't give somebody online a benefit versus Main Street.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's so a lot of people say, well, this is a tax increase, and I'll say it is in a way, but because there's more revenue. But I think it's actually making our tax code congruent across all ways people purchase items. So it's updating that.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions on this section from the committee? All right, don't see any. Okay, go to the other part of your bill, if you would.
All right, yep, thank you, sir. In 2020, the legislature passed House Bill 879, allowing home delivery of alcohol. It was a great step to allow consumer trends to match alcohol regulation in the state of Georgia. Like most laws we pass in this building, I think it's important to evaluate after a few years and make sure that the intention of the legislation is working in the real world. I'm pushing this legislation because it does not work for all of Georgia. When you live in a city with one grocery store or liquor store, this law only works for you if you live in that city and not in that county. Even worse, if you live 2 miles from a store, but it happens to be in the next county, our laws do not allow these deliveries to occur. Nothing in this bill will change where the tax is paid or how returns are currently handled with alcohol delivery, and it does not create some sort of alcohol fulfillment centers. It just allows Georgians to buy products they desire from the stores that they normally shop, and puts us in parity with Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Louisiana. So what it would do currently is alcohol delivery that we passed in 2020 allows you to deliver in the jurisdiction. So if I live in the city of Dalton, I can only buy alcohol delivered to my house from stores in the city of Dalton. I can't buy them from the county to come into the city. I can't live in the county and buy from the city. Or I can't live next door on the county line in Murray County and get stuff delivered from Dalton or Whitfield County. And so what I'm saying is consumers don't always purchase within their county. They have stores that they like to purchase, and I think a 25-mile radius is a reasonable distance for people to be able to purchase these items to be delivered to their home. My county's 33 miles long, so I think if you did just county, just jurisdictions within that county, it wouldn't apply. I mean, that's even bigger than what I'm asking here. I think that it's shopping patterns and what people desire to be dropped off at their front door. And I'll be glad to take any questions.
All right. Senator Albers had one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you again, Representative Carpenter. I live in an area that I think this is most applicable to. Where I live in Roswell, within a mile or so is Alpharetta, is Milton, and Cobb County. And some places cannot deliver across the street, but they can go 30 miles in different directions because of where those lines come together. And it makes absolutely no sense to arbitrarily pick it up by that line. I realize in some areas of the state, there might be large unincorporated counties. In other areas where some of us live, there's a lot of municipalities. But this just makes perfect sense, so somebody can actually service the people that are across the street for them, as opposed to missing all that opportunity. So thank you for bringing it forward.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll agree with you. So Whitfield County didn't even have a liquor store until about a year ago. So, I mean, they couldn't even buy from anywhere from a liquor store till about a year ago. And we don't have anybody operating in this space because I don't think that when you get out of the metro, the radius is important to be able to allow people to be profitable in the space, so.
And one more question, if I could. Isn't it true we'd much rather someone get something delivered to their house than to potentially get in their car and drive under the influence?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, Senator Hickman, I believe you were next.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Representative Carpenter. I think I picked up somewhere or another that this particular bill was heard like 3 times in the House in 3 different committees, and it failed in all 3 committees. And so,
No, this bill hadn't failed in any committee. It's been there's been a Senate bill, a House bill, and they've never had a hearing in a couple of committees, and then it was put on another bill in another committee, but never received a vote. unfortunately, because I think we had the votes.
How, okay, second question, how is this going to protect minors from receiving alcohol?
Same way the current law does. We're not changing the current law. We're just opening it up to be able to go to 25-mile radius. So currently, you have to have an ID on site when you deliver, et cetera. So
we
nothing,
can't-
that's current law right now. This bill doesn't address that issue.
So we can't do like a geofencing thing around counties to figure out where the county line is as opposed to 25-mile?
Yeah, I don't think it solves the real problem is what Senator Albers said. You know, if you live on the county line here and you shop at that store right there, but you can't have it delivered, but you got to order it from 30 miles the other way. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Okay.
And nothing's changing about where the tax is being paid, right? If I go to the liquor store here and buy a bottle of bourbon and then drive home and drink it, I'm paying taxes here. I'm not paying it where I'm drinking it. And so this would be the same thing, and that's what's occurring right now with the delivery piece.
All right, we got
Thank
to
you.
keep going on this. Senator Estevez, I think you were next.
I just had a question. I wasn't here in 2020. What was the reasoning?
COVID. Oh, what was the reason for just the jurisdiction?
What was the reasoning behind the local jurisdiction?
Yeah, I didn't carry the legislation. The gentleman's here today that did, but I think a lot of it was negotiations, right? It was a big step from where we had been. And when we negotiate legislation, sometimes we have to do what we can get through to get passed. And so that's my belief. And there was some concern about the taxation piece, but I think we've proven that the taxation should occur wherever the product's picked up.
All right, one more question, and then we're going to hear from some others. Senator Beach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to tell you that, sorry. The 25-mile radius bothers me. I have a problem with that. And I also, like Senator Hickman, I heard it's failed 3 times in the House. Now, maybe you just clarified that. But this part of the bill, Part 1, Section 1.1, should be a regulated industries bill, not in finance. And so I cannot vote for this bill with this Part 1, Section 1.1 in it. I think 25 miles is just too long. I mean, some people would call that bootlegging. I mean, that's a long ways.
All right, we got a couple people that want to speak on this. So,
Yeah, they can come by. I'm friendly. They can sit by me.
Brett Harrell, former chair of Ways and Means, I think is here, and
I'll let them sit. If they're together,
Don't go too far.
He loves digital downloads, so he does love the digital.
I do love that part, sound tax policy.
Well,
Two of his babies together.
all right, and try to be concise. We are
yeah,
getting
we
short
will.
on time.
Casey Honeyman with the Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of Georgia. Thank you all for hearing us out. I have with me Brett Harrell, who helps us out with Robbins Government Relations. Thank you for hearing us. I think a couple points here. I think number one, this isn't a normal consumer packaged good. This is beverage alcohol. It's the product of not one but 2 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. We have to keep that in mind when we're setting the table here. When we stood up this law 2 years ago, we were very proud to support it. This is something that we took, and it was a big step forward. People are getting their groceries delivered. We wanted to be able to have beer and wine and spirits in this case to be in that mix. And I think Chairman's a good friend, but I think there were a couple of pieces that we wanted to kind of make sure we're clear on the record here. As it relates to the taxation piece, when our wholesalers make deliveries to a beverage alcohol retailer, the excise tax is remitted at that point. The beverage alcohol retail delivery law stipulates that because alcohol is regulated, it's treated differently than tomatoes and toothpaste, that when that goes out the door for delivery, that sale is not consummated on a sales tax perspective until that delivery is made. So if you broaden out 25 miles, we're now tax-based shifting a lot of money on a local level. If a City of Atlanta retailer is making a delivery, the excise tax from our trucks, it's remitted to that local City of Atlanta and to the state. And then also when that delivery is made, and now it's a consumer in Sandy Springs and Dunwoody, draw a 25-mile map around the city of Atlanta. You touch a lot of places. Those are cities and counties that are not realizing those tax dollars anymore. Again, we have the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee that was there, that was focal or a key part of making this bill a reality. And I think when we did it 2+ years ago, we all sat together and we all raised our hands and said, this is something that needed to change. This was something that was carefully done, that was thoughtfully done, and something that we were happy to support in the end. But maybe Chairman Harrell, if there's enough time, can kind of talk about how that process came.
Go quickly if you do.
So,
'cause I know there are
you know,
questions.
as mentioned, I actually was the author of the original facilitator bill and the author of the original home delivery of alcohol bill. So I have some knowledge of both.
And let me stop you there and say that we passed out on the 4th day of that session. The first 3 days, because I was a Senate sponsor, the first 3 days, he was out with the flu and wasn't helping me at all.
Wow. But I came on strong at the end and we got it done. But
Pretty much.
Let me make as was mentioned earlier, the purpose of facilitator was to get Georgia brick and mortar stores on parity with large out-of-state sellers. This amendment does just the opposite with regard to jurisdictions. You will have a large retailer buying alcohol in significant quantity that now can ship outside of their licensed jurisdiction and compete with smaller retailers and other jurisdictions. It is just the opposite of what we intended with marketplace facilitator. Secondly, it was stated nothing in this bill changes the sales tax law. That's true. But the sales tax in the law today and in facilitator is paid at the point of delivery. So when deliveries are made outside of a taxing jurisdiction into a taxing jurisdiction with a different tax rate, that will cause problems with collections and remittance. One jurisdiction will probably benefit, the other jurisdiction may not. So there are legitimate tax issues caused by a 25-mile radius because nothing else in the underlying bill was modified. So that is a serious and legitimate problem there. Also on enforcement. Let's say a delivery is made outside the licensed jurisdiction. Under the current home delivery law, that alcohol license hanging on the wall in a retailer is ultimately what guarantees compliance. If you make a delivery outside that licensed jurisdiction, let's say an underage delivery, and a police officer catches that person made an underage delivery, so what are they going to issue a citation to the delivery person, maybe the delivery company? But how do they jump from that jurisdiction back to a license that they haven't issued? I mean, is that police officer going to call the neighboring jurisdiction and say, please enforce against this retailer that has an alcohol license on the phone? It is a serious enforcement issue as well. And these are things that just simply are not contemplated in this simple amendment that strikes the word licensing jurisdiction and replaces it with 25-mile radius.
We got to
Okay.
get some questions here, Senator Albers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great to see you again. I don't know if I should call you chairman representative or the smart,
Evil lobbyist.
The smart guy who's making more money in the room. Thank you for all the work you did when you were here. I think, Casey, you brought up a great point about groceries. That same grocery store can deliver to everyone around them for everything else in that grocery store today. They have thousands and thousands of items, and they can go to everywhere around them, no issues, no concerns at all. And if a delivery company did something foolishly, like not ask for an ID, the delivery company would be the people that are in trouble. They would be the ones who would get cited. They were the ones who would get in trouble, not necessarily the owner of the liquor store, because at the point it left them, it was the delivery company's part. So I appreciate the fact that you're very passionate about your industry. You're wanting to protect what is currently in place, but this is kind of silly, guys. I mean, it's time to move forward on some of this.
All right, let me get Senator Tiller here, your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chairman of Vice, for being with us today. I just have a question for you. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't take you up on your expertise in cases as well. What do you think an appropriate radius would be if 25 is not it?
Well, I think the concept of radius is not the appropriate way. I mean, again, I don't think a radius is going to when it crosses jurisdictional boundaries, is going to cause these problems, whether it's 5 miles or 500 miles, absent, if you really wanted to achieve that, there are just simply multiple other portions of state law that would have to be addressed that are not addressed here. So a radius was always going to be problematic.
And Mr. Chairman, if I might, the original law spoke to the idea of same-day local proximate delivery, and that was really important. And the one way we achieved that was making sure tax dollars stayed in the communities in which these retailers were servicing every day. It was not next day shipping. That's different. That's when we start to separate out. And the radius, as you continue to grow, that's where we start to move into. And I think the idea of looking at these third-party actors in the state of Georgia, They are not licensed in the state, and
All
they
right,
are
we're gonna have to move
they are
on.
agents of the retailer, so they don't have any skin in the game. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Anavitarte.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to be brief, not to beat a dead horse, but I love you guys. But I mean, this is such common sense stuff, consumer driven. As someone who hates taxes, whether I drive to the store and pick it up or they're going to bring it to my house, I'm going to get taxed. Whether you inherit the cost or not, I'm still going to get taxed. You know, I mean, if I can right now buy wine online, which I know all these products can be different, and I can literally go to the Walgreens and pick it up because that's where the FedEx box is going to be, or they're going to bring it to my house or whatever, I'm still going to pay. Like, let's just change the system and move on. So consumers, after what we've lived through, after, you know, during the pandemic, to the way everything, to where, you know, Senator Albers mentioned, even to buying a sofa and wanting to put it in my house, like, let's stop over regulating everything and get to just common sense policy. I love both of you, but I mean, this is simple.
All right, there's people that.
And I'll
I
call
think
the
are
question,
ready-
Mr.
are
Chairman, when
to
you're ready.
move, But I need to let a couple more people talk, if y'all could step
Thank
down.
you for the
First,
opportunity.
Now,
Appreciate
Dante Handel was here from ACCG. Are you on this particular issue?
Just the digital goods piece of it.
Okay, so that was taken care of, I think. Department of Revenue is here. I guess I want to ask y'all quickly before I let the last guy speak here. We've heard some stuff that there might be some confusion here. Do you mind testifying to that? I don't like putting you on the spot, but.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Austin Gibbons from the Department of Revenue. I'm joined by Ironetta Duncan, our alcohol chief attorney. This is her first time before a Senate finance hearing, but she's our expert on this issue. We've worked really hard with the House and the Senate on the underlying bill, and I yield to Ironetta for any questions on the Title III changes.
So the question is, it sounds like it might be hard to regulate or keep up with or something like that. What's your opinion on that?
At this time, we don't find that it would be difficult for us. We do feel that we can implement this bill administratively, even if we have to do it through rules and regs.
Okay. All right. Well, that's probably all I need from you today. I appreciate you. The last one that had signed up, and you're going to have to be pretty quick, is Mark Smith.
I think he's just going to waive. I was just going to make 2 points.
Okay.
Chairman. 2 points. I would offer that the legislation we passed last year with food trucks showed where a food truck was permitted in one county but can operate around the whole state from a dealing with a permit process. Same with a license. So an alcohol license in one county, if there was an issue delivered to the other county, we're already addressing that issue in other places. And then also just ACCG and GMA, we had conversations on this piece of the legislation. They were neutral.
Okay.
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Now your button's about amendment or something, or well, we'll do that after the motion then. So go ahead, Senator Albers.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I moved you pass House Bill 170 LC 432795S.
Okay, we got a motion and a dual seconds. I think it was Senator Orick that won that. So any other discussion on that? Now, you want to offer an amendment?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Carpenter, I love the part 2 about your bill, getting digital up with bricks and mortar and making a level playing field. But when you're dealing with alcohol, I just think it's different. In my amendment to HB 170 LC 432795S would be strike Part 1, Section 1-1, lines 10 through 43 regarding the 25-mile radius language that's being requested. That's my
Okay.
amendment.
We've got an amendment that says just strike this section altogether. Is there a second to that? Okay, we've got a second to that, so we'll vote on the amendment first. All those in favor of striking this section completely, raise your hands. Okay, we've got 4. Okay, all those opposed? Okay, I think you voted twice. Okay, so this is to oppose to the amendment. Let's start over. All those that are in agreement with the amendment that we strike this section out completely, raise your hand. Okay, that's gonna be 3. Now, all those opposed to the amendment, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 6. Okay, 6 to 3. So the amendment fails. Now we're on the main motion. All those in favor of this bill as it is, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, opposed? Oh, actually, okay, 3 opposed. Okay, so 6 and 3 again, I believe. All right, your motion carries.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
All right, we've got one more bill if the committee wants to tackle it, if you think we have time.
I gotta go to another committee.
Is everybody okay to stay for one more bill? All right, come on up.
Hey, I don't take any of this shit personal. You know, I gotta get to that meeting subcommittee on the prisoners.
No, but, well,
Thank you, buddy.
that's,
I made a copy of that too.
okay. That's Tillery's. All right, your bill now just has we did the other part earlier and passed out the hospital and the public school with a 2026 sunset, like we're doing everything else, December 31st. So
Okay.
your bill currently just has the SSO on there.
Okay.
And I need to flip pages and get rid of all this paperwork and get to it.
I'll say, if I can get a copy of that, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, make sure he's got a copy of the, I think it's pretty much the same language you had going to 130. There may be a sunset on it as well, but
Okay.
if not, I would want one on there.
So that's LC 432795S, is that correct?
Okay. So we've got a 432838S.
Nope.
Did y'all gave him that copy? Yeah. So, the only thing different in this and yours is the sunset on there, that we have consistently put on everything.
Okay.
Other than that, I mean, look it over and be sure, but other than that, I believe that's the only change.
Yes, sir, that looks like it. So
101.
all the other parts you said were
Hang on
moved.
just a second, somebody's still trying to find the bill here. So this is the substitute to House Bill 101, LC 432828S. All right, y'all keep the talking down, please. All right, go ahead and present. Y'all keep the talking down over here, come on.
Okay. Well, as you stated, Mr. Chairman, this is, the portion of the bill that's left from my original House Bill 101 would deal with the, school scholarship organizations. And it looks like that, it would raise the aggregate amount for 2024 and all subsequent years to 130 million per year. And there is a, sunset added for December 31st, 2026. And you said that the, rural hospitals,
We put that
moved.
on Matt Hatchett, Chairman Hatchett's bill.
Okay.
And you're welcome to pick the care for that Senate sponsor if you want to. The only change there was we didn't go to the 80 million. We left it at 75. We left the language in they needed, and we also sunset those 2026, December 31st.
Okay. All right. And-
So
and I'm
those
sorry,
passed
what
out
was-
earlier.
And what was the other one you said you moved on to that? The rural hospitals
And the public 5 million
okay, and the Habitat? did that
is
struck-
still got some work to do on that,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. All right, all right.
All right, so we've got, we've got this bill in front of us. Everybody familiar with what we've got here? Any questions on it? Looks like, I see some people had some amendments, but first, we'll have to have the main motion on the floor to do that. So we've got a motion by Senator Hickman to approve. Is there a second? Second. Got a second, Senator Albers to approve. All right, Senator Tillery, your light is lit up there, so.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to propose an amendment, and it's handed out. It's Amendment 490100. I think everybody has it. Let me tell you what the,
Let me find it here.
Mine's 490100. I think it would have came to you a little quicker.
I'm still looking for my copy, but. Okay, I found it here.
There's one laying right here.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the purpose of this amendment is we've continued to raise the scholarship, this goal, I think most people call it the gold scholarship, year after year. And I have issues with that overall. While I support school choice and support, at this point in time, a complete ESA voucher. I do have concerns about the fact that we have broker fees that are associated with this scholarship that continue to allow it to be eroded from its total amount for paying of the broker. So what amendment, I guess this will be Amendment 1, does is it caps that broker fee. Currently, right now, that broker fee for the first 1.5 million is capped at 8%. That's about $120,000. And then later on, after that first 1.5 million, it looks like it goes up to, goes down to a 6%, which raises about another $7.2 million. What the amendment does is caps the broker fee at 2.5% for the first 120 million. And then after 120 million, caps it at 2%. That would still leave in excess of $3 million in broker fees for this $120 million scholarship. It would force more of the scholarship to be used for its purpose. And if the committee thinks as well, I think it makes it a better bill.
Second is amendment.
All right, we've got a motion and a second on that amendment. I guess we may, looks like I've got a couple of more people have handed me, so maybe we'll go through all of these and then look at them. One question I had too on this, I guess the I don't know how you refer to them, but the corporate donations go to kind of like the poorer schools. And I know y'all got a list of all those schools in the package, and that is limited to $5 million. Is there a reason that part's only at $5 million?
No, sir, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right, just a question I had. All right, so we've got an amendment on the floor, and now Senator Estevez, you must have one of these here, huh?
I do. I have a couple, actually. I broke them down in small bites for the committee and would refer folks. And Representative Crowe, thank you so much for bringing this bill. The first amendment is AM 430235. Amendment 2. And this would be an amendment that would require annually for the Student Scholarship Organization to submit a report to the Department of Audits that would be very similar to the voucher bill that was passed out of the House, or the Senate, sorry, earlier this session, but would require a report that has performance data from the scholarship recipients on a nationally normed reference test, level of satisfaction of those parents and the participating students, and then the average medium amount of scholarship received by those scholarship recipients, as well as the average and median total cost of attendance of the schools that those students are going to. This information would be aggregated so as to protect the student's identity, but would provide the public some transparency as far as what's happening with the money that is going to these students and who are attending these various schools. So just a transparency measure that would help us better understand where this money is going and how it's being used. So that would be amendment number 2.
So looking at your amendment, is this the language that was in Senator Dolezal's bill, or is this different?
Yeah, I believe it's very similar to his bill. I can't say it's all of it is word for word, but the reports, I will say the reports are, or the information that's being requested in these reports are pretty straightforward and something that certainly I know public schools report on pretty normally. So I'd imagine it would not be too difficult for these student scholarship organizations to do the same.
All right.
Fair enough.
We've got a motion. Is there an amendment offered? Is there a second to that? All right.
Lines 37 through 40, that protects the identity of the individual students, isn't that right?
Right, because
that's
it's
right.
aggregate, it says there.
Yeah,
That's right.
second, thank you.
Okay. And
And-
let me see who all is signed up on this, though. I
Oh.
guess there may be more
Yeah,
amendments.
Mr. Chairman, I had two more amendments
Two
really
more.
quickly.
Okay, go ahead.
500041, much quicker this time around. This would be amendment that would require student scholarship organizations have a yearly audit that is provided to the Department of Revenue. This would make those audits open to, require the organization to make those available to the public within a reasonable time of such request. It's very similar to the interest that we showed earlier today in ensuring that those veteran programs were transparent with the grant money that they were receiving. And then the second provision would ensure that no member of the General Assembly or a spouse would receive income from student scholarship organizations during the taxable year that they're receiving these contributions with the tax credit. So to ensure that all of us don't have a conflict with these programs that are receiving over $120 million in taxpayer money.
All right, so two parts to that amendment. Okay, Senator Hickman.
Can you clarify legislators receiving income? What you mean by that?
No member of the General Assembly or their spouse can receive income from the student scholarship organization.
Does that mean that no legislators can be one of those people that sells those scholarships, receives commissions off of it? Is that what you're talking about?
Correct. The administrative fee
Okay, thank you.
that Senator Tillery was talking about.
Okay, so we've got amendment number 3 offered. Is there a second to that? Second from Senator Orrock. And you said you had one more?
And then the last amendment, Mr. Chairman, I believe addresses your concern. It would restrict the additional $10 million that is being requested to those student scholarship organizations that give 100% of their scholarships and tuition grants to students who reside in school zones with the lowest 25% of all public schools. If you recall, the Senate passed that amendment with the voucher bill that passed the chamber just a couple weeks ago. So this would make that consistent with the SSO program only for the additional $10 million that is being requested.
So are you saying the 5 million and 10 million total of 15 million, or just 10 million? I'm trying.
This would be separate from the 5 million. This would just be an additional 10 million.
They would get 15 million of the 130 million. Is that what you're saying?
That would be my desire
That's what your amendment is offering.
The increase in funds would only go to those student scholarship organizations that are giving 100% of their grants to students who reside in those attendance zones.
All right. And that's your last amendment, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Number 4. Okay. We've got amendment number 4. Is there a second on that? I don't know if I've had this many amendments before, Senator Rhett. Okay. Let me let some people speak real quick. One of them's already been taken care of because their stuff got moved to another bill. Let's hear from Kellen Carr. I guess you represent these, and you can still stay there unless we need to get 2 people here. You represent the corporate schools, and I think there's a list in here, maybe several pages long, of all the schools that you would represent. Is it going to? Yeah, this AAA Scholarship Foundation, so that would be your school. So tell us quickly, let me ask you first about, there's a lot of, I guess, transparency that's been put on here. What's your opinion of that?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Chairman Huffstetler, for allowing me to speak today, and the committee. Thank you for, Representative Crow. Definitely think that an increase to the cap is needed. The demand was hit day one. Many donors were subject to a 78% proration. Students remain on the wait list throughout the state. We have 130 students right now on our wait list. For AAA Scholarship Foundation, we serve eligible low-income children through the QEE tax credit program. So our student is an ethnic minority living with a struggling single-parent caregiver and many times a high-crime community. More than 80% of the children that we award are living in households with annual incomes at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. So for the average household income of the families we serve, it's about $37,000 a year. And by the time our students receive the scholarship, they're either below grade level, they're failing at their previous school, or both when they receive the scholarship. So the spirit of the income-based scholarship is that it really provides an educational alternative to a group of people who, because of the financial circumstances alone, would otherwise have none. The cap was met day one this year. It was a 78%, proration. We have a lot of students still on our wait list. And for us, it means that we can't get the siblings off of our wait list. And for financially struggling families, that means the difficulty of splitting their children between multiple schools or forfeiting their scholarship so that both children can attend the same public school. We also rely exclusively on corporate donations to fund our scholarships, as the families we serve typically don't have much tax liability to speak of. I think Chairman Huffstetler, when you asked the question earlier on the low-income students, we do rely on corporate donations. We commend the Senate last year for allowing insurance companies to participate in the program, like C Corps have always been able to participate. Right now in statute, there's a limit on insurance companies that is set at $6 million. We would respectfully ask the committee to consider striking that, setting it at 5%, so that if the cap is raised, it just gives insurance companies more room to participate, because that does serve our low-income students. As far as some of the other things, I was trying to take notes pretty furiously on some of the other amendments. We're certainly open to more transparency. Some of this passed last year on interest earned having to go to scholarships, but look forward to continuing the dialogue on all of this. But certainly happy to answer any questions.
All right, and I'm trying to remember back to your, when I talked about the aggregate data, the transparency, fiscal audits, is that something you're comfortable with? You got any issues with that, or?
Yeah, so some of the transparency passed last year in 517 that was interest earned would have to go back into scholarships. We thought that was really good. I think there was maybe 17 measures that were passed. We certainly, have some ideas on additional transparency. One thing that my SSO, brought forward is if the school requires an annualized standardized test, that be reported to the parent or guardian, so that these families can track this, whether this is working for the student or not. Most schools provide a standardized test, being sure that the parents have access to that so that they can see if that child is meeting grade level metrics. We think that would be a good path forward.
We've got 2 more people I think want to speak. Is there something important y'all need to ask on this? So we appreciate your testimony. I've got Justin Pauley.
Chairman, committee members, just thank you for the opportunity to speak here. I'll be very brief. I'm Justin Pauley with the Georgia School Boards Association. We currently represent every school board in the state. Our association, our membership, has a long-standing position opposing tuition tax credits, and at this point we just can't support what this bill is trying to do. We do appreciate the amendments offered, and we thank you very much.
All right. Thanks. We've got Dr. Stephen Owens out here. I believe this is the last one that hasn't spoken. And again, try to be, I hate to cut you on time, but we're running out.
That's no problem. Chairman Huffstetler and members of the Senate Committee on Finance, I'm Dr. Stephen Owens, the Education Director at the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute. We have a longstanding opposition to public funds being used for private educational expenses. Just a couple things to think about on the inputs and then output side. On inputs, if we could close the loop to not allow businesses to claim this donation as a business expense, it can make money for corporations to donate, quote unquote donate, if it's a dollar for dollar tax credit. It's hard to imagine that as charity. But you can donate to these SSOs, and then you can claim on the federal taxes this as business expenses. And this is advertised on SSO websites. This is not some mystery. If we could close that loop like some other states have, so that it could be seen more as a charity that it's being advertised as. And then if we could also maybe talk about a cap on the credit for corporations. One of these student scholarship organizations is held together by one donation every year of $1 million from one corporation, which means they have about at least $1.3 million of liability to the state of Georgia. $1 million of that instead is going to an SSO. And then 10% of that is going to the salary of the CFO of that SSO. So just kind of what does it look like to have tighter auditing controls over how this money is being spent. And then finally, I really want to thank y'all for the amendments that y'all brought forward. We really appreciate that. One I would like to add as well is if we could have some understanding of the boundaries that private schools have put on who they would enroll. If this really is about parent empowerment, if the private schools could publicly list who they would not educate, I think it would help parents know, have a better idea of the choices that they're allowed to make, and it not just be a private school choice bill.
All right, we probably won't have time today for the amendments you're talking about, but appreciate your testimony. Apparently I missed Claire Suggs, so if you want to come up quickly and.
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Claire Suggs, and I am with PAGE, the Professional Association of Georgia Educators. And PAGE does have a position. We are not supportive of voucher programs, though I do want to recognize and thank you for the consideration of expanding the transparency around this program. Though it has been in operation for well over a decade, it's never been evaluated. So having additional information would be hugely helpful to really understand the impact that this has had on students. I also do want to point out that in code right now, there is a requirement that an analysis be done in 2023. So I would ask you to consider, before moving ahead with raising the cap, if you would wait until that analysis has been completed, and ideally until the amendments that Senator Estevez has proposed, so that we really do have an understanding of how this is affecting children.
All right, we're going to have to, I appreciate your comments. Senator Hickman, you had a comment?
Because of the significance of these amendments, I'd make a motion that we table this until the next meeting.
I'd second so we can process it. It's a lot.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second to table. I don't think there's any discussion on a motion like that. All those in favor of tabling, raise your hand. Okay, so we've got a majority that wants to table the bill at this point. So we will stop right there. Yeah, I'm sure you would. Okay. All right, thank you, committee, for your work on this.